Hello, students and alumni alike, and welcome back to the show FIXATION, the show where we talk about our students and their latest obsessions. And today we have two guests for us, being Meana and Kelis Brown. These two are two very successful juniors majoring in psychology and are very prominent in their academic clubs. They are also part of the Active Minds. While we pick those brains to see what they like, how are we doing today, Meana and Kelis?
Well, I'm doing great. I'm excited. Very excited, actually.
Same. Good. Excited. Nervous.
Same. See, you guys know a lot about what's up here. Do y'all often see a lot of fixation going around, right? Like people just being absolutely like obsessed with the things they love.
100%. I think I'm kind of one of them. I relate.
Yeah, I agree.
Do we have a number one fixation today? Ironically enough.
Psychology.
Right. It would be psychology.
Yeah, I will say anything mental health related. Honestly, I love it. I don't know why, but genuinely, it could be the smallest thing because I believe that everything connects one way or another to mental health. So literally anything that fits in that bracket, I will be obsessed with.
Like literally every time I see you guys talk, one way or another, the concept of the mind always 9 times out of 10 comes up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Do you guys know when your fixation started?
Great question.
Well, I think mine started when I was very, very young, like elementary school, because I already was asking questions like, why do we do stuff like that? Like, why am I thinking about this stuff? Or why is that person like that? And I didn't have a name for it, but I was going around asking these questions about, the mind and behavior and cognition.
What do you have to say, Gabe?
I would say mine's came from as I got older. See, I'm an only child, so a lot of the aspects of socializing were like new to me because again, as an only child, I didn't really socialize. So it was like, why do people act like this? Like, why do people communicate like this? Like, why do people
Right.
literally why just why?
Yeah.
So after that, I really wanted to learn more, one, so I could better myself and also help other people, especially when they're down, depressed, anxiety, all of that stuff. I wanted to learn how to help and understand it so I could connect better with people.
Do you guys have like anything, like what is the most interesting thing about psychology to y'all?
The most interesting thing to me, well, I really want to become a neuropsychologist. So I really like biology, mostly like how events can alter our brain chemistry, how we're born with certain, stuff like that.
Oh yeah. I want to do developmental psychology. I like to learn how the brain matures and how, like you said, what environmental factors can also help shape the brain and how it develops from like the age of 6 all the way from adolescent to teen to adulthood. Just watching it develop and grow and seeing how much stuff actually goes into that development and growth. That's my favorite thing.
That's your favorite thing?
My favorite, yes.
Now, is there anything, you love that about psychology, but is there a misconception or just something that just frustrates you about psychology? Like maybe somebody like misinterprets it or misunderstands?
Yes. Psychology itself is such a misconception. Like, there's so much false information or stereotypes, like stigmas. Like, I don't know if you've experienced this, but me personally,
What do you have to say?
when I'm like, hey, my major is psychology, they're like, oh, well, don't read my mind. And I'm like, okay, I'm not a mind reader. I'm studying psychology. Yeah.
The amount of times I've been asked that is actually hilarious. They're like, can you diagnose me? No, I cannot.
Right. Oh, I need you to be my therapist.
Right, I cannot. Do I get a discount? Just because somebody is a psychology major doesn't always mean that they're going to be a therapist. There are so many different avenues you could take in psychology. Like some people go psychology and business, where it helps them with business aspects and how to run the company, how to get sales and stuff. But for me, I would say the misdiagnosis in psychology and the self-diagnosis without having all of the knowledge together, that is the one thing I dislike the most. I think especially for minorities, ADHD is like one of the biggest misdiagnosed things. Some kids are just bored. That's just the truth.
Yeah.
Also, anxiety and ADHD have so many similar symptoms that sometimes a kid can just have anxiety and not ADHD, but it will get misdiagnosed. You know, I thought I had it, but I actually don't. I just have anxiety. I don't fit majority of the
that's fair.
criteria. Yeah, so.
Perfectly fair, yeah.
There's a chance I might have both. I know I have ADHD, but
I think that everybody has some form of anxiety. I believe that most of the disorders are on a spectrum, in my opinion, because anxiety is what your brain naturally does. You know, it's supposed to fire off those chemicals in your brain.
wait, I want to touch on that. Do you think about the spectrum, right? Now, this is something that I am not that educated in personally, which is why I want to pick your brains on this just to get away from my confusion. Do you think, in a sense, that everybody has some level of on the spectrum?
Which spectrum?
The autism spectrum?
Yes.
Well, so me personally, I do. I think that one, given the amount of people that have came on the show already, hyperfixation is a form of autism and ADHD. It doesn't say that you have it, but it is one of the things that, you know, you look for. I think that autism, there are some people that are neurotypical, but a lot of people are neurodivergent, which basically means your brain, it still functions normal, but, you know, there are a few quirks about you. That's the best way I can put it. But I do think everybody, there is like you have a little bit, but you can't quite diagnose it. And then there's you're obviously autistic. And then there's a middle line of people who will have certain symptoms, but not all of them.
All the way there.
Yeah. So I think there's I would say there's a spectrum for everybody. What do you think?
That's tricky because I do remember we talked about that. You were like, I feel like you had remarked, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you're like, I feel like maybe everybody has autism or is on the spectrum. And that was interesting. That was the first time I've ever heard that. So that was a really unique
It's an interesting
point of view.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So me personally, I don't really know. I wouldn't really know.
Yeah.
It's very tricky diagnosing just in general, and then especially with autism.
Yeah, that's what I said. Because I think that people, like, when they think autistic, they think of certain stereotypes of, like, I don't know the proper way to word this, but of, like, the obviously autistic ones, like the ones who display, like, very well-known stereotypes and symptoms. When they think autism, they're like, oh yeah, they forget it's a spectrum. It's not like everybody's not like completely autistic. I think that some people just have some traits or some of the list, but not the complete list. Or there are what we call high-functioning people who can have it, but you can't really see it because of how long they've had it and how they've learned how to adapt and adjust to their environment. So in a way, yeah, I think that everybody has a slight bit of it. It's just, I think your environment is what really shapes it for the people who aren't like fully autistic, if that makes sense.
And I'm sure there is.
In terms of things that are to the point where it's not obsession, I find a lot of people find solace in their, what they would call a disability. I wouldn't, where they would like describe things that would help them, or because to better understand themselves. Like, cartoons or movies, for example, right? Because they would see somebody in the same situation and they would connect to that, and that would make them feel a lot better about themselves, or not so different. Now, a cartoon I actually want to talk about, very interesting enough, is one that I also really want to understand how, in a sense, I mean, I can see how this cartoon relates to
Ooh,
psychology.
I'm getting excited.
But at the same time, this is a horse we're talking about. So I just want to understand, what is the connection with BoJack Horseman and psychology?
Say no more. Say no more.
Yeah, you asked enough. Specifically BoJack or just the show?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Ooh, do you want to go first or you want me to?
Yes. Okay. There is. Oh, okay. So it's not just a cartoon about a weird, like quirky little messed up horse dude. No. There's like so many characters in that show, and they talk about like backstories. I mean, why people are the way they are, their present situations, what they've gone through. There's so many layers to it. Like, they touch upon a lot, like from depression to suicide, dementia, Alzheimer's. It's so expansive and it's helped so much. And I'm gonna let Meana talk because she's bursting.
Okay. So this is my favorite show, so I'm so happy you asked.
Right.
So BoJack Horseman explores a character named BoJack. I'll just give a brief synopsis of it. It explores a character named BoJack. BoJack has he is bipolar. But you get to learn, I think it is great to learn the backstory of it, because most people, they just see the action and they don't ask why. Why is he doing this? Why are they acting like this? What made them act this way? And I think BoJack Horseman, the show as an entirety, does a great job of really elaborating on these quote unquote bad people that you see, why they do it. Like, we explored how he grew up, generational trauma, PTSD, the effects that parents have on the child, how generational trauma, like we followed BoJack, we followed BoJack's mother, we followed BoJack's grandmother, like we saw 3 generations of trauma and how it led and it was passed down. We saw how people fight addiction, we saw how people deal with guilt, we saw how people dealt with relationships.
And their love attachments and styles.
Yes, it was everything that you could think of in mental health is probably in that show. I'm not gonna lie. I feel like it is a great learning opportunity in a fun way.
Yeah.
So,
you said the main character is bipolar, right?
Yes, he is bipolar.
That sounds like great representation of like.
I would
I like
say
just
yes.
the mind in general.
Yeah, I would say yes, because I feel like also another stigma is that people that do have mental disorders are very fragile, or they can get away with a lot of things because they do have that mental disorder. But BoJack Horseman, it's like, okay, I understand what you've gone through. I understand, who you are as a person, what you carry, but the things you've done are really bad, and people can't turn away from that. I like that it holds him and all the other characters accountable for their actions at the end of the day. So
I will say, and I think the show is great on explaining that you can understand someone, but you cannot excuse the behavior. They did a great job of showing what happens when you do excuse a bad behavior due to sympathy, and how bad it can get if they keep on getting away with certain things. And they also showed what it's like to take accountability. And I think they did a great job of balancing the two. And also, so I went deeper into the show and learned about the creator and everything. And one thing that he did point out is that he wanted to show BoJack because he wanted to show that people, there are people like that who have such intensive backstories and who do a lot of messed up things due to what they went through. But he also made it a point of, if you do relate to BoJack in any way, shape, or form, you should probably get help or look in yourself and deep dive in yourself. At least that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
Deep dive in yourself and pull out those traumas and those things and say, hey, what am I doing to other people that I'm not even aware of? And how can I better myself so that I don't act like BoJack? Essentially, that's the thought process.
yeah. Pretty much, yeah. I mean, we could be here all day talking about BoJack.
Literally, all day.
So great.
Good job, BoJack Horseman.
Yeah, it's a great show. I recommend everybody watch it.
Yeah.
Now, the last episode, I cried so bad, so I can't recommend the last episode until you're ready. But overall, it is a great show if you want to learn about mental illness.
Okay. Well, that would make me want to give it a look personally.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
That would have to happen after I ask my last question.
Okay.
And then this one that I'm going to try to word the best way I possibly can. So, it is said, and I gotta agree with this, that the greatest fear of all that we have is the fear of the unknown. Would you guys be able to describe that for me?
What do you have to say?
I actually can. I believe that people fear what they don't know. If it is unfamiliar, confusion brings up a lot of negative feelings. And I will say that the best way to get over a fear is to learn about it, is to research about it, is to get comfortable with it. For example, what is it called? Exposure therapy, I believe.
Yes. Yeah.
So like if you're scared of, let me say cockroaches, because I'm terrified of
Like
cockroaches.
phobias.
Literally, yeah, phobias. So for one way of therapy is to put a person in the room and get them acclimated to the roaches and show, hey, this isn't a danger.
scary.
Yeah, this isn't
Look at the
like
little
what
guy.
what is the fear? It moves a little fast. Because the main reason I'm afraid of them is because I don't know a lot about them and they creep me out.
Right.
And that's because I haven't done my research. Now, one thing I have gotten over is like a fear of snakes. Learning which ones are poisonous, which ones are not, which is venomous, you know, which ones can I touch, which ones should I stay away from, how to act around a snake, how to know if it's scared, body language. Now that I understand how snakes function and what tips them off, I know, hey, that's a black gardener snake. I could be around that. It's not going to do nothing. It's not going to harm me. It's just going to go on about his day. Oh, that snake has a big head. Oh, yeah, it's poisonous or venomous. Sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't be around that. So the knowledge, the more knowledge you have, I believe the less fear that you will have.
Yeah. I agree. And I feel like at the end of the day, a lot of us just want to feel safe. So when we're threatened, when our safety is threatened, you know, we, like you said, a lot of negative emotions come from that. Because at the end of the day, it's just fear. And a lot of us are learning how to grow. A lot of us are still like, you know, these 3-year-olds, these 5-year-olds. We just want to be safe. You know, and if it's something unknown,
What do you
you
have
know,
to say?
that's scary. We're like, oh, I'm not safe anymore.
But if we have the opportunity to learn about it, what makes us in our minds put off from wanting to learn about it to not be scared of it?
I will also say that trauma does have an impact on fear. So there are fears that are like, you know, due to unknown, but there are also fears that are caused by trauma. Like, for example, dogs. If a person is bit by a dog, they're probably going to be scared of dogs for a while. And that's not even from, it can be from a lack of knowledge of not knowing how to interact with the dog, but somebody might have just met an aggressive dog. That happens. They got bit. Now they formed a fear of dogs. It's not so much a fear of the unknown, it's a fear from trauma. In terms of how to work on that, I haven't gotten far enough in my studies to give a good answer to that question. Maybe you can?
Yeah, I think people are just reluctant to learn more. Yeah, because it just, I guess it threatens their safety, and they're comfortable like knowing what they know. They just don't want to learn more. They're threatened by it, and a lot of us, you know, have our own like confirmation biases that we're very
Absolutely.
like stuck in our ways is a very real thing, and you're gonna meet people that are very stuck in their ways, and it is, yeah.
Love learning about that.
So, yeah.
Do you gals have any closing statements for me?
Any closing statements?
Watch BoJack.
Yeah, watch BoJack Horseman. Overall, this was great. The questions were amazing, and I had a lot of fun with
I
both
did
of
too.
you.
I did
Yeah.
too.
You know what? Just for one little bonus, just so the audience is aware, can we watch BoJack Horseman?
Netflix.
Yeah,
on
Netflix,
Netflix.
or if you don't have Netflix,
It is a Netflix original.
yeah, pirate it.
So, yeah.
Do what?
RR, matey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all
Or-
I have to say.
Yeah,
Thank you for you two coming on my show, and I bid you adieu.
thank you.
And that ends our week's fixation. Please support the official release of any source material you've seen used in this episode, and all information and music used will be located on your screen for you right now. And hey, if you want to be in the show, I will leave my information down on the screen for you as well, or you can just come talk to me anytime you wish on Fayetteville State University. Thank you for watching, and tune in for next week's fixation.